What's up, guys? My name is Miguel Teixeira, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to analyze some of Mikel Arteta's defensive organization patterns that helped explain Arsenal's impressive 5-1 victory over Manchester City. In their defensive organization, Arsenal sets up in a 4-4-2 formation. Odegaard, who plays as a third midfielder when in possession, joins Havertz to form the team's first line of pressure. With Arsenal positioned in a high block, Havertz and Odegaard take turns applying pressure on the ball and providing defensive cover, ensuring both constant pressure on the ball carrier and simultaneous protection of the central space within their defensive block. Meanwhile, Declan Rice, initially positioned alongside Thomas Partey, pushes up to press one of Manchester City's midfielders, either Kovacic or Bernardo Silva, who offer passing options behind Havertz and Odegaard. After a lateral pass, Arsenal activates its pressing system. Odegaard steps forward to press the centre-back, making a diagonal run that not only pressures the ball, but also blocks the interior passing lane to the player left free. At the same time, the second line of pressure, Trossard, Declan Rice, and Martinelli, adjusts its defensive duties. With Odegaard pressing the centre-back, Rice is now responsible for splitting his marking between Bernardo Silva and Kovacic, covering both as potential passing options. Trossard and Martinelli, on the other hand, focus on protecting the central channel as the priority, while also keeping an eye on their wide pressing targets, Akanji and Guardiola, respectively. With the ball carrier under pressure and considering his body orientation towards Akanji, Trossard identifies the opportunity to close the distance and press the Manchester City centre-back. After the pass, Akanji receives the ball already under pressure from both Trossard and Declan Rice, who quickly closes in to provide defensive support and prevent a potential pass. Arsenal eventually wins possession in this area, with both Odegaard and Havertz positioned ahead of the ball, ready to provide forward passing options. With Akanji bypassed and Guardiola positioned wide, Arsenal finds itself in a 2-versus-1 situation against John Stones, enabling them to score the opening goal and take an early 1-0 lead. Another example of Arsenal's high defensive block, the team starts in a controlled posture, focusing on closing spaces and maintaining a compact block. Odegaard, positioned in the first line of pressure, closes the passing lane to Kovacic. The objective is to transition from this controlled position, where the team is simply protecting its shape, into an active pressing phase, applying more aggression to recover the ball. At this point, the positioning of the winger on the active side is critical in allowing Odegaard to step up and press. Martinelli's role here is to ensure defensive coverage by splitting the responsibility between covering Kovacic, the free player, and his wide reference, Guardiola. This ensures Odegaard can press without leaving dangerous spaces inside Arsenal's defensive block. Following a lateral pass, Arsenal shows its intent to activate the press, but crucially, they maintain control and avoid opening up spaces within their defensive structure. Communication between Martinelli and Odegaard is key here, with Martinelli waiting for Odegaard to complete his defensive shift before stepping up to pressure his wide reference. By stopping the opponent's forward progress, Arsenal forces them to play backwards. This often acts as a trigger to either initiate or continue the pressing phase. Martinelli, initially pressing Stones, closes down the passing lane to the free player with a curved movement. However, in the final moment, when Martinelli presses the goalkeeper, he fails to close the passing lane to Stones, and Manchester City manages to break Arsenal's pressure. Despite this setback, Arsenal quickly reorganizes. Declan Rice leads the defensive reshaping. With Martinelli beaten, Odegaard accelerates quickly to compensate for his teammate, stepping into the second line of pressure, preventing Manchester City from progressing up the field. Now, let's analyze how Arsenal organizes itself in a mid-block. Starting from their 4-4-2 formation, Arsenal always prioritizes protecting the central channel, with Odegaard and Havertz moving inside to close off passing lanes to the midfielders positioned behind them. After a lateral pass, Arsenal activates its pressing system, with Odegaard stepping up to pressure the ball carrier with a diagonal run. It's also important to note the opposite winger, Trossard, who prioritizes protecting the central channel, allowing Declan Rice to step up and pressure Bernardo Silva while the winger helps balance the central line. After a switch to the opposite flank, Trossard doesn't immediately press Akanji. Instead, he prioritizes protecting the space behind him, closing off any potential connection with Phil Foden. To maintain control of the interior space, Arsenal continues its focus on keeping the lines tight. The first line of pressure, Havertz and Odegaard, always drops back behind the ball when broken, ensuring the block remains compact. In Zone 2, Manchester City positions Bernardo Silva higher up the field, joining Marmoush and Phil Foden behind Arsenal's midfield line in an attempt to create a 3 versus 2 overload against Declan Rice and Thomas Partey. In these moments, Arsenal's wingers were crucial in helping to close the half spaces. After the ball reaches Akanji, Trossard tries to close the space on the ball carrier, but always with the intention of scanning his surroundings to ensure Rice is covering him, allowing him to step up and pressure the ball. When the ball shifts wide, Manchester City tries to create 2 versus 1 situations against Arsenal's fullbacks. At these times, the midfielder on the ball side, or in some cases, the central defender, is responsible for managing this breaking run. To create numerical superiority in these areas, Arsenal set up a defensive triangle in the wide channels, with the winger always dropping back to support the fullback. After a backward pass, Arsenal tries to push up their lines whenever possible, with the winger on the ball side stepping up to pressure the ball carrier, while Havertz and Odegaard remain more passive, ensuring coverage of the central channel before eventually stepping up to press. With Bernardo Silva creating this 3 versus 2 overload against Arsenal's midfield, the opposite side midfielder had to quickly shift across to close the half space, trying to ensure the free man in this situation is always on the far side of the ball. In this example, Thomas Partey arrives slightly late, and we might question whether Martinelli could have held his position longer inside to ensure Partey could arrive in time and prevent Marmoush from receiving the ball with time and space to turn toward Arsenal's goal. With limited opportunities to receive in the half spaces, Foden and Marmoush look to exploit other areas of the pitch. Here, Phil Foden drops deeper to link up with a third man, allowing City to break through Arsenal's first line of pressure. In moments when City breaks through Arsenal's first line and accelerates the play, Arsenal needs to cover the ball. Thomas Partey recognizes this need and closes the distance to the ball carrier to help cover the ball. Once again, communication between the players is key. Partey signals Saliba about his intention to press, and it is the centre-back who adjusts to cover Marmoush, who becomes the free man. To conclude, here's an example showing the team's intent to advance their pressing lines whenever possible. As we've seen before, a backward pass is often an indicator for the team to activate their press, and this is exactly what happens here with Odegaard, who simultaneously shuts off passing lanes behind him, forcing Akanji to play backward. Odegaard continues the press, always closing off the passing lane to the potential free player and allowing the team to push their lines forward. Now, with Arsenal in a high block, we see Arteta's team in the structure we discussed earlier, with Odegaard and Havertz in the first pressing line, and Rice moving up a line to pressure the City midfielder positioned behind this first line. In this case, Odegaard closes the passing lane to Akanji, the free player, and, as usual, City tries to use a forward pass to find that same free player. Credit goes to Rice here, as he anticipates the movement on Akanji's side, the free man Kovacic could have passed to, and Arsenal recovers the ball in high areas with a chance to potentially make it 2-0.